Hi there, welcome back to another episode of the BARROW Podcast. Today is a main episode, a non-book episode. Taking a break, getting out of that the body keeps the score and trauma, and moving on to another kind of trauma. No, I'm kidding.
Let's just keep with the trauma.
Let's keep with the trauma. Well,
Yeah.
the title of today's video is going to be absolute clickbait. We'll probably get thrown off the internet.
Yes.
Or experience some outrage on social media.
Absolutely.
But stepfamilies aren't real.
Well,
Not in my experience. In my experience, anyway, perhaps.
and not in my experience because I didn't even label them as stepfamilies.
Well, this is another area where you and I were
my word.
massively at odds, and also attunement, big fail on attunement for you.
Oh, I've absolute failure. So after the early years of access,
Right,
you find yourself in another position in relation to your father. He has a new partner.
Yep.
And he has a family.
Yeah.
That you are who you are meeting.
Yeah.
And I never regard that as you going in
to a stepfamily. But let me say though that this is because there is kind of a look. No one does like. What was weird about that situation, I think, was the lack of, and I wonder if other people in stepfamilies had similar experiences of like when this new family is created and you're joining it. A lot of the time that doesn't seem to be addressed. It's like there was never any effort to integrate into this thing. It was just kind of like, this is how things are now. And suddenly there was like...
And that's not just from me.
No,
that's
not...
from your father's family.
Yeah.
And well, don't even mention my family. It's like it doesn't exist.
Sure, but you're saying that in like a way that makes you sound disparaging, and I'm not saying like I'm really like that's not the case.
Yeah, sure.
What you mean, and I'm sort of at pains to get this right, is that like a new family was created, but not a single person involved directly or at the periphery ever called it that.
That's right.
And I don't know why. Now, there is a feeling that I have, or that I've always had, that perhaps there was something to do with the fact that it was a same-sex relationship meant that it never got kind of discussed openly. But at the same time, it was... I wish that it had, because my experience of it was that boundaries and roles and everyone's position in relation to one another were not set up. They weren't formed. And if it had been called a stepfamily right from the beginning, I wouldn't have...
You would have found a place in it.
Perhaps. I mean, my confusion would have been lessened.
Yeah, and can I say that from my perspective and your grandparents' perspective, it's still you just being taken away on access.
Yeah.
It's just that.
It's only me in relation to my father.
Yeah.
There is nothing beyond that. So, like, my father could have been, like, he could have done anything. He could have joined the circus. He could have had a relationship with, 19 virgins or whatever. Like, it didn't matter. Whatever he was doing had, by that point, become irrelevant.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because his behaviour had been so egregious that the only way to deal with him mentally was to act like he didn't exist at all. And that was difficult because regardless of anybody's feelings, I still went in real time and had this other family. Yeah. I had this other life.
So how did you relate to A, the partner, and B, the children who were part of your access experience?
One of the weirdest experiences I ever had, right, was like waking up at about 25 years of age and going, oh, I think I had a stepbrother. I never thought about it. And because, like, for me, why is that so? I mean, again, it's got to do with everybody around me. Like, I've got your family sort of acting like, that doesn't exist. Tobe's life is with us.
Yes.
And whatever he does over there, you know, he'll forget about it. He'll get over it. He'll you know. But then I also had the bits of my life that I did experience with my father, his new partner, and his partner's children. No one in that environment was saying, hey, consider me your guardian, consider me your caregiver, I love you, I love your dad, we're together.
Yeah, see, you're not getting that.
Consider my son to be like a brother to you. Like by the time I was like 15, 16, 17, 18, I did not have so much as like contact information of that family, who by that point I'd known for 10 years-ish. I think I was between the ages of about 8 and 12 when my father ended up in a new relationship with this other person, and that person had children of their own. But like, I never spent a minute with my father's partner outside of access. I never spent a minute with my father outside of access, but I never was alone with that person. That person never like took me anywhere, said anything positive to me, never said anything particularly negative either. There was just nothing. And like, I ended up in a situation where there was a boy, my father's partner's children, there were 3 of them. The youngest one was about 4 years older than me, 3 or 4 years older than me.
And that's the one you had most to do with.
Yeah, because he was young, he had like designated access weekends. He had to go. And so like, obviously I met him and knew him, and I shared a room with him. But it was like this abstract thing that was happening to me. It was almost like it wasn't even real. Once a fortnight, I slept in a room with another boy. And then, but just...
I know, yeah.
And then, but the entire world did not acknowledge it. So I woke up on Monday morning to go back to school, you know, throughout my entire adolescence. No one knew about this experience that I would have. Like, the degree to which nothing was communicated or known, and the degree to which everything was sort of alien and other and in this kind of surreal realm. Yeah, it was completely compartmentalized.
What about you and he? Did you ever talk about the situation?
Not really. I mean, there was some... I think, you know, we shared in some sort of eye rolling and some jokes made at our father's expense, right? Like we kind of had a shared sense of like, I'd rather be anywhere else but here, you know? Like, we both had mothers, and in his case, siblings that he would prefer to spend time with. And like, every weekend that you're on access is time that you're
away.
Time that you're not going to like the friend's birthday party that you've been invited to and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that's one of the disruptions of access, is the fact that like, you know, all these things that you would normally be attending, like your social life, is severely impacted. At least it was in my case. So we would have that in common of like, you know, being like, well, yeah, I'd rather be somewhere else.
I think initially you had some contact with the next...
Yeah, so he had... So
the next boy?
Yeah, so he had an older brother who was, again, another like 3 or 4 years older than him. And like, when their father and my father first got together, he was about the age of 15, 16. So that divorce was really like in that pivotal adolescent period for him. And I remember like the few encounters, see, he was meant to come on Access, right?
Yeah.
But he refused.
Yes.
So the few times initially that he came, he left out the window in the middle of the night, which was like weird. I mean, like from my perspective, like you've got to take into account, like I'm 8, 9, 10 years old, right? In this window of time, I have no siblings, no cousins. I've never been in a situation like this, like sharing a bedroom, let alone in a bedroom. Now I'm in a bedroom with strangers, and one of them, the oldest one, I've never been around a 15-year-old boy before. Like, you know, that's just not my experience. Like one of them is like going out the window in the middle of the night. And like his experience was horrible because like his family broke down. As I say, he was like in that period of adolescence where he's like nearing the end of school and like his life's falling apart. So he was very angry and very upset. He never, ever was angry or upset towards me. He was nothing but nice to me. Those boys were nothing but nice to me.
Okay. And the older one, you never...
I met the eldest one like late in life. But I don't want to talk about that. But like, like he, I mean, he would just run away. And sort of like, I remember kind of thinking like, I wish I could run away. Like, I don't want to be here. But it was odd. Like, I mean,
so weird.
Well, it was like another negative experience. Like it was, I don't want to like put too much on it. Like, I'm not saying it was traumatic, but it was strange. Like, I mean, like the atmosphere was strange. Like you've got a 15 or 16-year-old who I don't really know. I'm in a room with them and they're jimmying a window and going out in the middle of the night. Like that's something I witnessed, you know, like that's something that would, I remember sort of being in my mid-20s and kind of that experience, that memory came back to me.
Yeah.
I was actually working on my novel, my first novel, and that memory came back to me and I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, what the fuck did I, what did I witness? What did I take part in, right? And it's like, no, like, that was part of your life. That was not something that, and see, I had to get this right. Like, that is not something that did not happen to me. That's not something that happened outside my experiences. I was in that room. Yeah. And I think the effect of my father and his partner, as well as your parents, who kind of like never really made it concrete for me, made me feel as if it wasn't real in a way. Yeah. Because like I say, those roles and those boundaries were just never defined. And certainly I was never encouraged to think of it as a step family.
No.
I was never encouraged to call my father's partner my stepfather or guardian or anything. And I was certainly not encouraged to think of his children as being my step siblings. That was never said. And as I say, I could go through that experience and be on the other side of it at like 18, 19, 20 and be like, I can't even spell their last name. I don't have a number to contact them with. They have never made direct contact with me. So who are these people in relation to me? Like,
and of course, I'm not thinking along those lines. It's like not realising that your father and the impact of your father is not constantly in your head. Mm-hmm. They are just so much on the periphery to me too. So,
I mean, they're not even known to you. You would not have... And see, this is one of these things of like, when these step families are made, you know, I just think there is so much space for things to fall through the cracks and for people's feelings not to be known. Like, I think when somebody starts a new life with someone else, they project that everyone around them is as excited and happy about it as they are.
Yes.
And a lot of what happens is like a lot of animosities get buried, but they never go away. Like the kids, depending on how old the kids are when the changes occur, they might be too young to object or they might bury their feelings. But then later they distance themselves from that family or it manifests as like serious animosity, like they've got some sudden beef with the family. Yeah. And it's like, from the perspective of the parents, it's like, well, hang on.
How is that possible?
How's that possible?
That's part of my new life, and I'm happy about my new life.
But also, you weren't pissed off then. You weren't pissed off 15 years ago. Why didn't you say anything then?
Yes.
It's a little bit like what we've talked about on The Body Keeps This Trauma, the score about like trauma, like it emerges later. It's like, I never had the platform to, not that I objected to their relationship, it just, I never had a platform to say, this is kind of uncomfortable. And like, the big thing for me was that like, my father abandoned me, and then horrible shit played out with the first person he was with. But then later he got together with somebody who was definitely calmer, and things were like on a bit more of an even keel. But in that, I felt like I was being replaced. I was being replaced by another person and their children. And that really made me anxious, because I only saw my father like fortnightly, but the other boy saw them every weekend. And so they had a whole routine going.
Okay.
And I think some of those...
I don't think I realised that. Realised that.
And I think some of those visits were longer than one night. It was like 2 night stays. It was like Friday, Saturday night.
Yes.
So...
Which was the
normal
thing.
But like, my father then had a totally different life, and he had a son. Somebody else's kid was now his son that he was playing dad to. And like, and I'm never there. And like, they would have in-jokes, and they would have all this stuff from spending all their time together. So I would be like the fourth wheel. Like, I know it's a third wheel, but I was like a fourth wheel in that scenario, which made me feel, like if I felt rejected from the abandonment, then I felt as rejected by all this. And I didn't realize that until much later in life. Because like, as I say, they would have their little in-jokes, they would have their rhythm, and like, because I was there for such a limited time, I would have to fit in with them, Like, I was always kind of like...
And that plays into, your father's treatment of you,
Like ditching me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your fucking problem?
Yeah, I'm getting on with life, and these people think I'm okay.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like he's like best buddies with, this. He's living this life in which he's kind of like, he thinks he's getting some sort of positive affirmation, so therefore that should go out to everybody. And so I ended up in a situation where I started becoming the minority. I'm getting smaller, and, weight of numbers, they're all moving on. They're all sort of getting on with things. And I'm like, hey, where's my apology from like 10 years ago? And then I start to look like an asshole.
That's right. That's right.
So that was always, and I think this is what happens in stepfamilies. I think these dynamics open up, or at least cracks between things. Yes. These spaces for people to get kind of browned off with one another start opening up. And that's without even getting to the financial stuff.
Yeah, and that really is only natural. I mean, families and different people are being foisted upon you. It's not you growing up with that. It's foisted upon you.
Yeah, and it's like, how am I going to trust... First of all, the last person my father was with was abusive. So how am I going to suddenly trust this new person he's with?
Right.
Like,
that's right.
That's first of all.
But you're meant to just clock in to whatever the situation is.
And then second of all, like, how am I going to ever believe that this person, my father's new partner, has my best interests at heart when I know they have 3 of their own children who are obviously going to take priority to me, because I'm not a blood relative. So it's like, I knew that my position was getting diminished. I was getting smaller and smaller, and they're all on the same page. They're all happy with each other. And I'm like, there is no space for me here, like I've been totally replaced. And So, you know, if you feel expendable at the abandonment, you feel expendable too at the feeling of getting replaced.
Of course.
You know,
Yeah.
and particularly when, so that was a whole other situation and a whole other hurt that I had never.
It's another step in rejection. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never really addressed it, and like some of the weird things though, like to talk about stepfamilies generally, rather than just in my experience. I'm sort of like, you know, one of the things, and I'll get to the other boy that I shared space with. Like, there was also like, in my situation, there were like class and intellectual discrepancies as well. Like,
yes.
I ended up being sent off to like a pretty posh school, right?
Yeah.
And this other kid was not going to that kind of a school. And so I always felt awkward about that, like the relatability factor.
Yeah.
And like then that kind of class difference would play out in treatment. So like I'd get kind of teased by my father and his partner for being a posh little prince. I'd get treated like a little fuckwit, basically.
Yeah,
and I'm sort of like, and I'm sort of like, but, and that kind of only child stigma was playing out there too. Like the other boy had siblings, but you're Mr. Little Prince. Well, you're not going to be Mr. Little Prince here because you've got to share a room. And so I was getting treated like...
The difference is highlighted by them in a way that belittles you.
Yeah.
Because that's their way of surviving themselves.
I don't know what it is. I mean, it's part of that kind of like, what I could never sort of get over was how they kind of were really into that kind of... And see, I've always had these conversations with people, you know, where my father's sexuality has been raised. I'm like, I never experienced a gay man for a father. I just experienced a man, and men are fucking morons. And and then I didn't experience one man, I experienced two. And like, I experienced two not particularly highly educated rural men who behave like men. Like they were jerks. Like they liked that kind of bullying stuff and that like teasing you shit and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm not like, I think, you know, my experience has been...
I think you've always tried to explain your reactions, and people have a definite view of, oh, you must be having that reaction because... no one really knows. It's the age-old thing. You don't know until you're in that situation what you're experiencing.
People have tried to, and I addressed it in that article I read ages ago. People have tried to suggest that because I had a negative experience or I have a negative view of these guys, that I'm basically a homophobe.
Yeah, that's right. And you have always, you know, fought against that view because that wasn't the case.
And I'm sort of like, it always came from this really middle class understanding of what gay men were like, which was that you would talk to these university educated morons and they would be like, oh, you're so lucky, you must have had such a cultural... Just let me finish. Yeah. You must have had such a cultured experience. And I'm like, no, you're talking about two guys and like, you're just talking about two men who grew up in like rural whatever. They do not value, I mean, they're pretty anti-intellectual. They don't really have those values. They don't have much cultural value, and nor do they have much cultural capital. Like, you're just talking about their sexuality, and I find it demeaning, the assumptions you make about people based on their sexuality. Like, that used to tick me off. Now let me... So that used to tick me off because my experience of these men were just an experience of men. The fact that they were gay was fucking meaningless. And my frustration was like, great, I don't just have one deadbeat dad, I have two now. I have two men who left their families, and my Saturday morning was going around collecting sad boys. I would get picked up in the car for Access. I would get put in the back of the car with these two men in the front, and I would get driven like an hour or more to the other side of the city to collect another depressed boy who didn't want to go on Access. And then we would go to a pub and we'd sit there in the bistro while they had a few drinks. We'd eat a fried schnitzel and then go home and watch television. It was a complete fucking waste of time. And the idea that I was having some sort of culturally enlightened experience because the two men involved happened to be homosexual, you are a fucking moron, okay, for believing that. Like anyone who has come to me with that, I find like you are so stupid. Your understanding of life comes from the most middle class. It's not even privilege. It's just middle class dumbness.
Yeah. That
all of life is like that. Oh, this person's identity means they behave this way, they vote this way, they And it's like, fuck off. You've never met anyone. You've not had any life experiences. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And so, for me, again, my experience of this time with this step family was like, I already had a parent, a father that I didn't want to go on Access with, who bored me to tears when he didn't frighten me. And now he's with someone who is exactly like him.
Yes.
And so I have double the boredom, not double the fear. By that point, things had mellowed, and that partner was fine. He never mistreated me. His children, as I've said, were fine. They never mistreated me. But it was like double the boredom, and it was double the farce of it. And I witnessed this other boy fall down and down and down.
Yes.
You know, in his own life. And to clarify what I'm saying is that the other boy that was there, who I shared a room with, first of all, he became really drug dependent.
Yeah.
He got really, really hooked on marijuana. He dropped out of school.
Okay.
He got a girl pregnant. He ended up on ice. He's now incarcerated, from the last I know, right? So, and I could see this coming a mile away. So I'm going to like an elite, posh, privileged school. I'm showing up for Access with these guys who hang shit on me in a class way because I'm Mr. Lord Fussy.
Yeah.
You've got it easy. He's got it easy. He only gets A's. He's Mr. Clever. He's Mr. This. He's Mr. That. And I would get teased all weekend by these fucking Neanderthals. And I would watch this other boy just struggle. And then, you know...
And nothing comes back on them.
Nothing ever comes back on them. They did their best. They tried. What else do you need except a bistro meal? I mean, fuck you. You're a dumb man who can't handle his feelings, who has nothing inside of him to give, who has no talent, who has no brain, who has nothing. That's what you are. No. The sexuality is irrelevant.
There's just no emotional
intelligence. It couldn't be less relevant.
No emotional intelligence. Did you... Sorry, I'll let you finish that.
And our weekends, my weekends with this other boy, we did nothing. Yeah. We never went to a sports event. We never went to an art gallery. We never went to the theatre, like live theatre. We never went, you know, to the botanical gardens. We never went anywhere. And this is despite the fact that they had an apartment in the heart of the city and were about a 5-minute walk from all of this. We never walked anywhere. We always went down into the basement, got in the station wagon and drove out to the shopping centres.
To a shopping centre.
That was the height of culture. Now, These men were utterly bereft of anything emotional or cultural or intellectual. And that is the truth of it. And so when I watched them give us nothing, nothing was ever planned, there was never an activity, there was nothing. They wasted our time, right? And I watched this other boy's life destroyed by that utter waste of fucking time. And when I got to the end of it and access was up, I said, I'm done. I don't want to see these people ever again. Now, if you're going to then, imply that I'm somehow homophobic after experiences like what I went through, you're sick.
Go away.
Spend 2 minutes in my shoes and see how you feel.
Did you ever think about the fact that these boys were in the same situation? It's interesting that when he gets with that second partner, it's a similar story.
Because they're the only two people in the world that could like each other.
But a woman has been left, a mother has been left.
Yeah, of
to
course.
rear three boys.
Of course.
That's just interesting in itself.
I know it's interesting, but it's sort of like, it's interesting, but it's ultimately meaningless because nothing is ever discussed or put into place. And, to be perfectly honest with you, those other children who I suppose technically were step siblings of mine, they didn't really have the capacity to think about that stuff much, both, circumstantially because they had to make money and move on with life, but also, there were class and intellectual discrepancies between me and them. And that's the truth. As cruel as that might be to say, it might seem crude, but, it's a matter of fact. Okay? Yeah. And, I was looking at this situation and I was looking at how none of these men involved here are ever going to break the cycle of shame and failure here that I'm witnessing. And by shame, again, nothing to do with sexuality, shame as in the failure of life, the inability to overcome oneself and be a meaningful person in the world. That kind of shame that you should feel when you're nothing. That I looked at it and said, these people are not fit to be in my life. And the only way a cycle of shame and failure will ever be broken is to cut them out like a cancer. And I think many step families need to be severed. No, look, I say that, sort of jokingly, but well, not jokingly, but certainly I think I think that there is a lot of animosity just below the surface in most step families. I think there is so much shit that goes unaddressed. And when you pin someone down and you give them the opportunity to speak, boy, do they start talking.
Okay.
And the other thing too with step families is just like look, it's the financial thing as well. It's like, in my case, like for instance, right?
Yeah, sure.
You go from, not that my father would have ever ever left me with anything, right? But for instance, I have a relationship with my father and his, accumulative wealth will only be passed on to me. Well, he gets together with somebody who has 3 children, and suddenly what might have been my inheritance is now getting dispersed between 4 or 5 other people.
Yeah.
Now, again,
some people will say, "Oh, well, that's just a fact of life."
Well, that's just a fact of life. Sure, it is just a fact of life, but when you haven't, as a child, you don't want your parents to get divorced. You haven't chosen that, and then they go on and they move on, and that's all well and fair, and it is fair enough. But don't think that people don't remember things or notice. You know, like it's impossible not to make a tally in your head. Like let's say as an example, like my inheritance was $100,000. Well, just as a for the sake of the mathematics, it's like, well, now $100,000 split 4 or 5 other ways is $25,000. I mean, are you seriously not meant to notice that?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing is, like, I think a lot of times the person who's moving on and getting together with a new partner and all this sort of stuff is like they're just projecting their happiness onto it. Everybody's sharing in this. Isn't it great? I found my person.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, no, motherfucker, it's not great.
Yeah.
Like, now my time's divided. I've got to get to know this person, and I'll either... You know, the other thing too is the powerlessness. You're at the mercy of that other person. Well, if that person is who your father or mother wants to live with, gee, I hope they like me. Because they're going to be pissing in my mother or father's ear now saying, get that person out of the will. Your son or your daughter is an evil little shit. That has happened. And so it's like, look, I was joking when I wrote Stepfamilies Aren't Real, and I'm being deliberately mean. Like, I'm talking about a very specific set of circumstances that I observed and that I took part in. But
yes, I was going to say people would make that comment.
Of course. Yes. You know, stepfamilies aren't real, but, you know, if you do have a problem, I mean, you know, just blame yourself. Look, I know I'm talking about a very particular set of circumstances, but when things change radically and you start introducing new moving parts, there are class and intellectual discrepancies between people that may be observed. There are financial changes that may be observed. There are fluctuations and frequencies and changes made to the atmosphere of your entire life that, hey, guess what? They might be observed. And like, this stuff affects people, and a lot of people bury it. But then when it comes time to, you know, like that thing occurs, that big event occurs, suddenly knives are out. And people are going, well, where did this come from? It's like, come from? It's always been there.
Yeah.
It's always been there.
You didn't see what consequences your actions may have.
My father's partner, as I say, like, never once have I spoken to that person. And it's not like that person's done me any favors. I mean, in the last, like, let's say 16, 17, 18 years, has that person told my father he really needs to call me? Has that person ever directly got in touch with me and said, hey, you know, you and your dad are estranged here. What's going on? What's that person done? Well, that person has done nothing, because that person is my father. That person is the same.
That's right.
I know whose side they're on. And guess what? It would be greatly beneficial if the legal heir to the family fortune was rubbed out, because who would that benefit? So I'm under no illusion. That person's not on my side. That person's never going to have my welfare and my best interests at the center of their thoughts. That's just not reality.
No, and you know that can lead you down another path in terms of, you know, how set up are the feelings towards particular children. You know,
I mean, it benefits. Let's put it this way, and the way that I was positioned, where I became in the minority, it serves a lot more people to think of me as evil than it does to think of me as a great person that really needs to be reached out to and looked after and encouraged. I mean, like, I'm the person you would most want to dispense with, because I'm the person who can challenge the most. So diminishing my position, hey, I hate to sound conspiratorial, but diminishing my position was something that back in 1998 was seeming like a great idea. It was always a great idea. Let's get real here. It was always a great idea to make me feel the most uncomfortable and to make me the person we're least willing to accommodate. That was always the goal.
Yes.
We're not going to have a come to Jesus moment and get down to who we are really and go and apologize to him, because that doesn't serve us.
That little boy going to the posh school, he's fine.
He's Mr.
He's
Stuck
fine.
Up. He's Mr. Stuck Up. He's Mr. Overachiever.
He's fine.
So that narrative meant that I was always going to be separated.
Yep.
And that I would end up in the position I'm in. No one's bending over backwards for me. No one's apologizing to me. That's not going to happen.
No.
And I really, because I had a brain and was sensitive, I knew that this was the new ball that was in motion.
Yeah, of course.
So I went from being raped to fucked financially and emotionally and with regard to any modicum of respect. Since I was 3 years old.
Yep.
And that's how I've been treated. So, step families are an illusion. If you think you're part of one. No, I'm going to stop there.
Stop. Please stop.
All right. We will be back sometime later. Maybe not. Unless I, drive down the highway with my ball peen hammer and do
That's
All right, bye.